Hello, my dear friends. Tonight on Marriage Without Tears channel, I am looking at a very important topic. Should I remain in an unhappy marriage? That is the topic. A whole lot of people who are going through marital stress consider this question sometimes in their own lives. Sometimes it appears as if you should throw in the towel. At other times, it appears as if you should just continue. And try as much as possible to weather the storms of your marriage. Because whether we know it or not, divorce may not be a very good option, but it is still an option. If that's the only way to save your life and save the life of your children that are coming up and being involved in a toxic relationship. So tonight we are looking onto that question. Should I remain in an unhappy marriage? If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so immediately. Look at the red button by my side. Click on it and get subscribed and be part of this edition. What is an unhappy marriage? An unhappy marriage is a marriage that is not meeting expectations. A marriage that is devoid of joy. A marriage that is devoid of excitement. A marriage that have lost value. A marriage in which the spouses are daggers drawn. Every time in conflict and disagreement. All manner of escapists, all manner of betrayers of trust, all manner of things that endanger the life of one another and even the life of the marriage itself. An unhappy marriage is an anathema. An unhappy marriage can do a lot of damage to your spiritual life. It can do a lot of damage to your physical life. It can cause cancer. It can cause high blood pressure. It has undermined a whole lot of people out there. Many people have lost the essence of their life, the essence of their being, as a result of being involved in an acerbic and toxic relationship. And that is why it becomes necessary for us to discuss this at this period in time. So, an unhappy marriage is a disaster at every point in time. And it is necessary for us to actually key into this edition today and be able to, check ourselves, check our own individual relationship and see whether it is actually necessary for us to continue or to throw in the towel. What is an unhappy marriage? An unhappy marriage is also a marriage where the couples are no longer seeing anything good in the union, where they are no longer seeing anything good in one another, where it appears as if the couples themselves have made a mistake by coming together in a union. If you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please do so immediately. There's a red button by my side. Just click on it and get subscribed and be part of this channel. Now that we have known what an unhappy marriage situation can be like, it is necessary for you to look at some certain factors if you must contemplate divorce or whether you are going to stay put in that marriage. There are some certain factors, certain indices which you must consider as you go on in that relationship. The very first one is your personal well-being. And when I mean personal well-being, I mean your physical, your mental, your emotional, your psychological well-being. How does this marriage impact each and every one of these areas? For instance, are you in a situation whereby the whole thing is so much on you that sometimes you feel like you are losing your senses? Sometimes you feel so betrayed, so terrible on the inside that hatred has crept into the relationship. When you see your spouse, it's like you should just pick up a knife and cut off his head. Are you in that kind of situation? Are you in a situation where you feel so betrayed to the level whereby you cry even in the night without, secret tears? Have you gone to that kind of situation? Are you in a situation whereby you seem to have lost total interest in that very relationship? Are you in that region? If you're in that region, I will advise you to seek counsel. Look for therapists, look for people who can be able to look at your relationship, proactively and, in a robust way. Be able to dissect the elements that are at play in your relationship and possibly be able to guide you on the best method to use in coming out of that situation. But if you have sought counsel and you have sought the support of people you think you should seek their counsel, and yet this thing continues, then you may begin to think in terms of getting out of that relationship. Either a separation or a divorce can make all the difference. But then there is another scenario whereby somebody may be so, you have developed a thick skin. Maybe your spiritual depth is so much that even at the height of all the terrible things happening in your marriage, you can still laugh it away. You can just laugh it off. You can, go to the region, your core, and find essence. Maybe the God factor is playing a lot inside of you, to the extent that no matter the degree of hurt from your spouse, you have a forgiving spirit. You have the tenacious spirit. You desire to stay there and, prayerfully hope for a better day. If you are in that region also, it will not be good enough for you to start contemplating divorce. You may have to stay in that relationship and pray and believe God for a better outcome. So it actually depends on how much impact the relationship have had on you. Whether the negative aspect of it is so much that every positivity has been undermined. So this is an aspect which you must check. So it's not just one counsel for everybody. It depends on your spiritual depth. It depends on your emotional depth. It depends on how much hurt or how much water has passed under the bridge. So these are things you must consider before you decide to throw in the towel. Now, a second thing which you must also consider is the children factor. If children has come into the relationship, you already have children. Now, you must begin to look in terms of how do you minister to the welfare of the children, even in the midst of that toxic relationship. Because a toxic relationship undermines the joy of the children. Sometimes when you see children fighting outside or using a acerbic word on their peers or doing all manner of negative things in public, it is an outflow of the kind of toxicity that they are facing in their own homes from their parents. So children are better caught than taught. So at the height of this unhappy relationship, how much damage is it doing to your children? Or have you removed your children from the scene? Some people may decide to send their children to the boarding house, or send their children to other people to raise them up for them. If you're in that situation, then the impact may not be so much on your children. But if your children are living with you and they're exhibiting all manner of negative attitudes, then there will be a reason for you to do what? To separate them from that toxic environment. And the only way you can do it is either by transferring them to a guardian outside or by checking out of that relationship. Another thing you must also consider is when you finally when you finally abort the relationship, in terms of divorce, how do you both co-parent in such an arrangement? Do you abandon your kids to one party and walk away? Or do you share the responsibilities? How do you still minister jointly to the welfare of the children? It's very, very important. You must consider that even as you are in that toxic relationship, in that unhappy marriage. These are things you must consider. The third thing you must consider also is, have this marriage gone to the level whereby it can no longer be salvaged? Has it come to the situation whereby divorce becomes the only option available? Because the mere fact that you are staying together still gives a hope. There's still a potential for reconciliation. There's still a potential, a hope that somehow something good can happen down the road. I have seen people who started marriage in a very, very crude, very, very, terrible, all manner of negative attitudes and all that. But over time, they got to understand one another. They learn so much about one another to the level whereby they are now working together as one. Such things are still possible when you continue marching on. I pray that you have the spirit to continue marching on. So you have to check whether your relationship is still salvageable. If it can still be salvaged, then you may do yourself a whole world of good to stay in that relationship and try as much as possible to salvage it. You can salvage it through prayer. You can salvage it through counseling. You can salvage it through the influence of people who are positively minded. If your husband or your wife have been cohorting with those who are facing terrible marriages, and those people have become, the people they are in bed with, all you need to do is to find a way of possibly getting out of town. Transferring from one city to another and getting yourself a new support system. New people that are positively minded to be around you as a couple, and you see changes begin to happen. All it also needs for you to do is to get more interested, more infused into your spiritual life, and somehow something good will happen to your marriage. These are the ways you work it. So you have to check, is this marriage still, can it still be salvaged? If it can still be salvaged, then I counsel you to stay put and wait for better days ahead. But if you discover, for instance, that every day it is about beating, it's about terrorism, it's about all manner of demeaning wars and all manner of betrayers and all manner of rubbish, if you discover that that has been on the increase each and every day, and hatred and all manner of acerbic situations have come into your marriage, all you need to do, find a way to separate. I always say separation or divorce is an option. It may not be a very good option, but it's always an option, because I don't watch couples go down to their death when they can live and see better partners and see better days ahead. No, if it comes to the level where they ought to divorce, so be it. So that's how it is. So these are things to consider. These are things to consider. A fourth thing you might also consider is this: your network, your social network, those that are around you. Because he that cohorts with fools will eventually become foolish himself. And if you are also found in the place of the wise, you will also tap into such wisdom. So if you look at your support network, your friends, your brothers, people that are around you as a couple, and you discover that somehow they are the negative people, they are people full of vices and people full of scum, then you may do yourself a whole world of good to change friends. It's very important. If you discover that a family member is posing a threat to your marriage, cut him off. Find a way of removing that person from your circle of support group. It's very, very important. These are things to consider as you march on in that unhappy marriage. I believe whatever has been lost in your marriage can still be found. So if you give yourself the chance, you can always find pleasure at the end of the tunnel. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so immediately and get subscribed to this awesome channel, and it will do you a whole world of good. Now, while you are in an unhappy marriage, there are things you must consider. Every couple have their good days and bad days. Every couple have their negative side and their positive side. There is no couple that is perfect. You may think that the grass is greener on the other side, but it may not always be so. So I encourage you, if you are facing a very toxic marriage, find a way of getting that toxicity out of your marriage. Do whatever you can to find a common ground with your spouse. Seek for counseling, seek for spiritual edification, seek for the right set of friends around you, seek for the right neighbors, seek for the right influence, whether media or spiritual influence. Seek for the right, allow your marriage to soak in the right influence, and it will make your marriage grow better. And find a way of also attending seminars that has to do with marriage and family relationship, so that you can learn. At the moment you give yourself to learning and seeking better information and more information on how to make your relationship better, the better you will also grow. It's very important, because every marriage thrives on stability. If a marriage is stable, it can make a whole world of difference to who you are or who you become later in life. If your marriage is stable, it will also impact on your children. So stability is very, very important in your marriage. So give it all it takes to get your marriage to that stable ground. And as long as you stay put as a couple, like I said earlier, there's always potential for reconciliation. There's always there's always a potential for reconciliation. But when you cut it off, when you abort the marriage in terms of divorce, you checkmate everything. So I encourage you actually to do whatever you can to get your marriage to that stable ground. Should you stay in an unhappy marriage, if your marriage has all it takes to get out of that challenge and become better, please stay put and watch it transform. But if your marriage is going to the ditch every day and you see it getting worse and worse, and it's tasking your physical, your mental, your emotional capacities, there may be a reason for you to do what? Seek for a divorce and look for a better partner somewhere down the line. You are blessed. I thank you very well and very much for actually spending time to watch this edition of Marriage Without Tears. And before you go, please click on this red button, become part of this channel, and God bless you. Thank you very much and have a wonderful time. I look forward to seeing you next week.